Leandro Paredes is back at it again. It has been less than a month since that massive blow-up at the World Cup final, and yet here he is, back on Argentine soil, proving to the entire world that his violent outburst was not some kind of one-off fluke. This is simply who the man is at his core, the attitude he has carried for years. Let us do a quick recap, because we all watched it happen. Argentina drops the World Cup final to Spain, and instead of taking the defeat like a professional, Paredes decides his best option is to grab opposing players by the throat and slam them onto the turf. Very cool. Just completely normal, totally stable behavior from a World Cup runner-up. You would think that is absolute rock bottom, right? Not even close. Since then, he has shoved a referee in the middle of a match and completely lost his mind on an opponent in the domestic league. Things have actually gotten so toxic that his own countrymen are starting to turn on him, pushing things to a dangerous breaking point where Boca Juniors literally needed fully armed riot police standing guard just so the midfielder could take a simple corner kick without being pelted with garbage. We are talking about his own country, on his home team's turf. Beyond that, we also have to dissect the serious charges he is currently facing, along with the massive ban FIFA is preparing to drop on him, and the bizarre loophole that might let him dodge the entire punishment, plus his long history of completely losing his temper on camera going back years. It explains exactly why so many people believe this is the definitive end of his career in Europe. First, we need to look closely at the chaos that has unfolded since that final match ended. Just 11 days after that final whistle blew in New Jersey, Boca Juniors traveled to Chile to play O'Higgins in the Copa Sudamericana. In the 69th minute, the referee calls a foul, and Paredes, the man who is literally the team captain, the one wearing the armband who is supposed to be keeping his entire squad disciplined, charges straight at the referee, a highly respected veteran Colombian official named Wilmar Roldan, and aggressively shoves the official's arm away during a heated confrontation. But this referee does not take that lying down. He shoves Paredes right back, flashes a card, and threatens a straight red. Just let that sink in for a moment. A World Cup finalist tried to physically intimidate the referee, and the referee actually won that confrontation. Then, just 3 days after that incident, Boca is playing Newell's Old Boys, and a couple of players are tangled up on the ground after a hard foul. The whistle had already blown, and as the opponent is struggling to stand back up, Paredes just blasts the ball directly into the guy's backside. I mean, literally right on his rear end. And during that exact same match, and this is the insane detail that really should be the main headline, Boca actually had to deploy tactical riot police around Paredes just so he could walk over and take a simple corner kick without the crowd throwing garbage at him. It is hard to believe, but this entire circus is unfolding right in his own home country. If you think this is just a rough patch or that he is simply struggling to handle a brutal loss, let us take a trip back to 2022. World Cup quarterfinal, Argentina versus the Netherlands. Paredes unloads two incredibly dangerous, cynical tackles before turning smashing the ball directly into the Dutch bench. The entire substitute bench empties out, absolute madness erupts, and Virgil, this massive 6'5" Dutchman, charges over and completely level clobbers him straight to the grass. Remember, this happened 4 long years ago. The exact same kind of stunt, the same guy unable to manage his temper, acting like an absolute jerk. So know that World Cup final blow-up was not a single isolated mistake. At this point in his career, it has basically become a permanent highlight reel. You can find endless footage of him pulling the exact same nonsense over the years. But now, let us shift to the part that actually threatens to ruin his entire career. Following that chaotic final, FIFA launched an official investigation and hit Paredes with 3 distinct charges of violent aggression. According to FIFA's strict disciplinary guidelines, any act of violent conduct carries a mandatory minimum suspension of 3 matches per individual count. If you quickly calculate the numbers, he is staring down the barrel of a potential 9-game ban. That essentially wipes out an entire calendar year of playing international matches, all because of a brawl that erupted after the final whistle had already blown, and he is certainly not the only one facing the music here. Right now, El Molina is hit with 2 separate counts of assault for targeting Rodri on the pitch. Even assistant coach Roberto Ayala, a grown adult who is supposed to serve as the voice of reason on the bench, is officially charged with punching Dani Olmo directly in the chest. Thiago has found himself dragged into the mess as well, not to mention the offensive banner concerning the Falklands and the blatant racism coming from the stands. Yes, FIFA has launched official active investigations into those disgraceful incidents too. But here is the detail that is going to drive you absolutely crazy. Paredes might actually walk away from this entire disaster untouched. Here's how he pulls it off. The referee's original match report clearly showed that he received a red card. Then, in a bizarre twist, that red card completely vanished from the final official document. We have covered that bizarre mystery in another video if you want to look it up. But to keep it simple, FIFA claims it was nothing more than an administrative error. Sure, we can believe that, but since he was technically never shown a red card on paper, he escapes any immediate automatic suspension. Which means right now, as we speak, he is completely cleared to play for Argentina in September, acting like none of this madness ever took place. And even if FIFA finally manages to hand down a legitimate suspension, Paredes is already dropping hints that he might just walk away from international duty for good. Which, if you think about it, is a pretty brilliant move, even if it is incredibly frustrating to watch. After all, if he is no longer representing Argentina on the pitch, they cannot exactly suspend him from playing matches. It is the ultimate equivalent of quitting your job the very morning they plan to fire you. So now, we face the ultimate question. How does a guy with mountains of video evidence showing him losing his absolute mind keep sliding by in his career without a scratch? Honestly, the answer is simple. He is just too good at soccer. And that is the harsh, completely unfair reality of professional sports. An 81% pass completion rate in a World Cup final dictates the tempo and wins you matches. Soccer clubs and national federations share a very long, toxic history of looking the other way when players behave terribly, as long as they deliver results on the pitch. Elite talent always buys you extra patience, though even that does not last forever. But it buys you a lot of slack. And Paredes had already left Europe back in July of 2025, a whole year before this chaotic World Cup run even started. Roma practically paid to get him out the door, letting him walk for a cheap release clause of €3.5 million. In today's inflated transfer market, that is basically pocket change. He ended up heading home to Boca Juniors, where he is now locked down with a contract through 2028. So we are not really looking at a scenario where big European teams are trying to sign him, simply because the man is not even on the market right now. But if he ever decides he wants to head back to Europe after all this drama, well, good luck to him. What sporting director wants to walk into the owner's office and explain why they just handed a contract to a 32-year-old midfielder who comes with an active FIFA investigation and a guaranteed on-field meltdown roughly once a month? That is not a smart signing. That is a massive liability who just happens to have a decent left foot. And Leandro Paredes had every single opportunity to be remembered down the road as a celebrated World Cup winner. A midfielder who could have easily coasted home as a legend after 2022. Instead, he is spending his victory lap shoving referees, launching soccer balls directly at opposing benches, and literally needing a massive police escort just to take a corner kick in his own country. Now FIFA might step in and hand down a massive ban, or he might just dodge the entire punishment by retiring before they even get the chance. Either way, the damage is already done. Globally, this is no longer just one bad night. It is a clear, undeniable pattern.